Good Friday afternoon, morning, evening, wherever you are. Let's see if I can get everything going here. I got to unmute Victor. There we go. And now let me get us full screen. There we go. Okay. So, hey, welcome. It's
Hey.
It's Friday Friday afternoon. It's time for some energy. I think Victor has adult beverages of some sort.
Yes.
This is about as adult as it gets from me as an energy drink. And this has been my only one for the week, in case anybody's wondering. I don't drink these normally. But I had a free one available, so I got one. So if you have any questions for us, we've got some stuff to talk about. Nothing huge. But if you've got some questions, leave them in the comments in YouTube right now. And we'll get through the other stuff later on. So Victor, it's Friday afternoon. It's Friday evening where you are. What are we doing?
Oh, I had the most intensive week in my life.
Tell me about
But
it.
it's over.
Oh, it's over.
Okay. It's over. The week is over. Yes.
Oh, okay. All right.
So
that's what it is. Okay, cool. We were going to share some pretty big news. Sorry, I'm clicking around here trying to get everything ready for later on. Okay, is that going to pop up? No, it doesn't. Oh, it did pop up. Dadgummit. All right, here. I'll come back to that in a minute. Still getting used to the tools. So, if we are at a Friday, and we had stuff we were going to share, but then we got, how shall we say?
Setback.
Yeah, there were two instead of one. We'll just leave it there. We gotta fix that problem.
It's coming. We can talk about it, I guess.
Well, let's go and talk about it. I actually just got off a phone call with a client that was. So I'm on my lunch break right now. In case anybody from the office is watching, I'm on my lunch break. Just got off a call with a client, and we were talking about doing some chaos stuff. And of course, I didn't mention what we're getting ready to talk about. So let's talk about chaos.
Yeah. So we just finished a new course in Udemy about chaos engineering. And we are finishing the book on the same subject and maybe a few other things. So that's a new and exciting thing that one more of those things that, you start and you say it's going to take X amount of time, and then it ends up being X multiplied by a factor of 5. But
then you wake up and it's actually 10, right?
Exactly. It's like software delivery for software development, right? It's going to be GA in 3 months, and it ends up being a year later. But it's there. It's very exciting. Very, very exciting.
So hopefully later on today, let's see if this works. I'm going to punch a button here. There. Let's see if that works. We should see something in the comments in a minute. I actually don't have a lower for it. Interesting. Are you still there, Victor? Oh yeah, okay.
I'm still there. Yes, I am.
Your audio ducked out for a second. So there should be a comment in the chat in just a second, or in the comments. Chat. There it is. DevOpsToolkitSecrets.com. You will see the new course listed up there. Probably once we figure out what's going on with Udemy. It's a small thing. It's nothing big. But the course is done. Book is almost done. But we are, since you're here live, or if you're watching the replay, the actual hard launch date for this is April 22nd. And we'll be leading up to that over the next couple of weeks. If you haven't been listening to the podcast recently, we actually did a bonus episode on Monday, which was a live stream with the Jameses from Jenkins X, and that came out as podcast today. But over the next couple of weeks, we've got, what was this week? I've lost track. That's the bad thing about when you edit a bunch of them all together, you lose track of which one's the live one. So this week was, come on, phone, work. Is that a ghost? That was a very loud, squeaky thing. This week's episode was not 71. We're not there yet. Somebody else's. I've already listened. No, 48. 48 was the regulations with Tigran and Roger, which was a good episode. But coming up in 50, 50 is going to be a really good one. So you want to be around for that one. And then 51, I think, is our favorite episode ever.
Is that the one with Adam?
Yes, the one with Adam.
Yes. Started as a fight.
Yep.
Ended well.
And
it's a good one, yeah.
Well, but the thing is I think we're just in round 1 of Adam. There's going to be another episode because I basically let Victor and Adam go the whole time, but I completely disagree with both of them. But I was just sort of letting them fight it out. Now I'm going to come in and throw the smack down on both of them.
So you disagree with both, but you have no guts to say that.
No, I did. But I just let you guys talk because I was busy doing other things, which was sort of a bad thing. But it was interesting. I was listening to it. So Chaos. And so Adam, so 50 comes out on the the 8th. And Adam's episode 51 comes out on the 15th of April. And then we will do a big episode about Chaos just in general and tooling, Kubernetes tooling and stuff. All of that will be on the April 22nd one, which we have yet to record. So that's probably going to happen next week. And
it's very satisfying, kind of you get rewarded for destroying stuff. How often does that happen?
Well, that's what I was just talking about when I was talking to the client on the phone a little while ago. I went, you know what? You're just about ready to start putting production workload on this. I said, have you done any chaos to this yet? Have you had because they were on ESX. I said, so have you had your guys just go in and terminate the VMs? Or have you had them vMotion it across the hosts to see what happens? And they were going, man, we hadn't even thought about that. I went, now's the perfect time to do it. Everybody's home. It's not like they're looking for stuff to do, but you need to take advantage of the times when you have them. So they were actually going to do that because it's like, oh yeah, we got a guy that wants to do that. I said, okay, look, I said, you need to go do these other things and save that as a reward for yourself. Because if you go do that, then you still have to do the hard work. It's like, okay, don't do that to yourself. So I was on a walk this morning and I was listening to a podcast from the guys at Basecamp. In fact, let me flip this over here. I'll go ahead and put this up on the screen. Whoop, I don't want to do that. I want to do this. So it's the Rework podcast. I'm going to go ahead and type this in. And Victor, you're still up, but it doesn't really matter. Let's see, what is it? Rework. I can't even type right now. .fm. If you're looking in the chat. So they did a live Q&A session, but they broke up the podcast into 2 parts. This was part 2 was the one I listened to today. Part 1 was last week. And if you haven't listened to this podcast at all, you might want to do that because a lot of this was just talking about how to deal with remote work. They had a book that came out in 2013, but it's a little dated, but it's still reasonably true. But if we, one of the things they brought out in that, let me flip back over here. I'm working on 3 screens. One of the things they brought up was this app, which I had not heard of before. And it's called Tuple. And let's see, let me just go ahead and copy and paste this over here down in the comment as well. Whoops, there we go. Okay, so if you're watching live, you can see that. So it's the best remote pair programming app on macOS. I think it's the only remote pair programming app on macOS. That's what happens when you're really specific. You can make things sound really good. Like, my daughter is my favorite daughter. She's my only daughter. Therefore, she's my favorite. But this was pretty good. And they go into a pretty sad thing. Remember when Slack stole Screen Hero from us? I don't know how many people actually use Screen Hero. It was a pretty good app. But this demo, if you scroll down a little bit and just watch the demo, it's pretty amazing. And they are, let's see, I was looking at the pricing on it just so you can see what it is. $25 per user per month. I'm not going to say it's a little steep. I don't know. If you're pairing all the time, it may be totally worth it. If you look at it that way, it's $1 a day. And especially in today's world where everybody's separate, it was a pretty amazing demo. And if you had enterprises, it's 400 per user. It gives you single sign-on and invoicing and stuff. So
That second one sounds a bit steep, but the first one is acceptable.
yeah, well, I mean, I don't know if there's anything beyond just these two. So, it may or may not be. I mean, that one word right there is usually a factor of something, right? A factor of 10, a factor of 20, which is okay.
No, actually, that price for enterprises is extremely cheap because on average enterprise there is 0.3 people working in per programming. So
exactly. So it may not be that big a
money
deal.
will be lost.
Yeah, and their FAQ is actually really short. It's like, does it cost to pair with anybody outside? So paid users can pair with any external collaborators for free. So it's not like every user. It's just, I guess, whoever's initiating the connection is who's paying for it. I guess that makes sense. So it seems pretty reasonable. But of course, fortunately, no. The way they do it is instead of me trying to explain it, just go back to the top there and watch this demo video. It was actually very interesting. Okay, so that was one of the things. What was this other one here? I don't even remember what this was. Oh, completely off topic. If you're in the US, I have some friends that run this nerd shop called Nirvana Outpost. They're in Pennsylvania. Small business. Small business. I can only speak for the US. I can't speak for the world. But one of the things they have is this Corona Apocalypse market. And one of those looks like I survived. If you're in a line, that will line towards the tower.
I'm not sure whether it's me or Darren got disconnected. So now I need to figure out to speak something instead of him for a while. Yeah, let's ask some questions. Does anybody online now has anything interesting to ask? And at least until waiting for Darren, he is the orchestrator of the communication. No? I'm not sure whether he's disconnected or I am disconnected. There we go. Okay. So, out of ideas. Going back to chaos engineering. We really put a lot of effort into it, and we hope it's kind of the best thing we did so far. And it was very challenging because unlike other things, Kubernetes, Terraform, Ansible, Docker, what's or not, that are all well established in industry and have a big traction and big support and big market and all those things. Finding good tools and good practices besides the personal experience was very, very challenging. There we are. There's Darren. Darren's back.
That's the third time my router has gone sideways today. The chicken must have crossed the road.
Because everybody's watching Netflix now.
I think that's part of it. I don't know what you were talking about. I saw a chat here going through, ask questions.
No, it's okay.
Okay, so I'll finish up my ramble here, then we'll go back to Argo, since Neil's here. This is like one of my favorites. Let me see if it renders up pretty good, and then I'll size it up. Don't ask, we don't have any. If you're in the US and you want to order some stuff from these guys, they would appreciate it. They've got lots of cool stuff. They also, if you're into what do you call those things? Doggone it. Hopefully I don't drop out again. Well, they also have adult type stuff that I bought some from there. Oh, it's these things. What do you call those things? They're the funny
toys.
They have lots of toys. They also have a Funko Pops. They have a huge selection of Funko Pops. So If you like Funko Pops, look these guys up. They'll ship directly to you. They always have a great selection. They also have some limited stuff. So anyway, that's enough for them. They're not paying me. They're just my friends, and I want to make sure that, if we can help them out, go buy some shirts, go do some other stuff. Okay, so now let's get back to the real questions. All right, so
they're coming in.
They're coming in now. Okay. All right, so I'm going to put you full screen for just a second while I go take care of one small thing.
Okay, give me the question. No questions. I cannot see the questions. Hey, okay, I'm going to read them from my phone then. That's
you can't see them? I thought you could see them.
No, I cannot. No, you're the only godlike figure who has all the admin permissions and all that stuff.
Okay.
What do you think of?
Look on your phone then. Yeah, give me. I'll be right back.
Yeah, sure. So, what do you think of Argo CD? Now, that's a bit difficult question for me to answer, and it's difficult. Any other question of any other topic would be much easier for me to answer, for a simple fact that I am heavily involved in JenkinsX, and I just became, like 2 days ago, a product manager of JenkinsX. So if I would say anything bad about Argo, then that could be easily interpreted as talking bad about competition, right? And the other way around, if I say that it's better than JenkinsX, then I would be fired. So Argo is great. I think I really like Argo, and I think it does some things really very well, and especially things around deployment, which is the initial focus of Argo. So if you're into business of combining many different tools to accomplish something resembling continuous delivery, I think it's a great choice, no matter whether it's a competition or no. It's a good tool. Of course, knowing where I come from, I would tell you that JenkinsX is much better because the scope is much bigger, and then things are better connected. But again, I cannot really answer that question without having conflict of interest.
Bias.
So I said I'm going to answer any question. Just don't ask me to compare JenkinsX with competitive tool, because then it sounds very weird.
That's, I guess, yeah. Let's sort of phrase it that anything but that space. Right.
Yeah, anything. You can ask anything
but CI and CD space. It's like, no, it's.
I will always answer honestly. If it's horrible, I'm going to say it's horrible. If it's great, I'm going to whatever I think. I'm going to give you honest opinion. Just not that space. Look at my hair. So you want to? Shall we read the second one?
Yeah.
Well, I'm right now. Yeah.
You got it. No, go ahead.
Well, and this is live, kind
Actually,
of. I didn't read it.
I can put it up.
So I have to answer it. Okay.
There it is. On the screen.
I'm struggling in finding the best way versioning Helm chart. Should it be related to the application version or a completely separate version number? I'm huge on GitOps principles, logic, and so on and so forth. So I think that, assuming that you're using Helm to package your applications, I think that every time you make a new release of your application, you should create a new package, even if that just means that you're changing the tag of the image in your Helm templates. And every time you change something, it needs to be versioned. So to answer it in a different way, I think that every time you make a new release of your app, you should make a new release of Helm charts.
Okay.
It sounds like a bit of an overhead, right? Kind of, but without versioning, world is a horrible place.
Yep. And here's his follow-on. And my idea is to do this automatically using the pipeline.
That's the correct idea. You should not do those things manually.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. So, yes. I mean, why all the repetitive processes should be automated, and versioning releases is definitely repetitive. There is absolutely no doubt about that.
Yeah. Got another question. You ready?
I'm ready.
Here goes.
What's the difference between chaos engineering and pen testing?
Yeah, penetration testing.
I honestly don't. Penetration testing. It's a similar thing. I'm not sure that I even know the difference. In both cases, yeah.
I think the core difference is going to be the purpose of it. Pen testing, I'm just trying to break in. Like it's sort of like if you remember watching Jurassic Park, and the velociraptors are coming at you from different angles, right? That's pen testing. Whereas chaos, I'm already inside, and now I'm just going to spin stuff and then kick stuff over and see what happens.
Yes, yes. I mean, it depends really what you do with pen testing. Is that if you try to find whether there is whether there is a loophole through which you can enter the system, yeah, that's a completely different thing. Now, if you proceed with trying to figure out what damage you can do, right? Then that's very similar to chaos, right? So with chaos, we're not trying to find really security holes, but we are trying to find what are the effects that might happen to your system if one of those security holes is exploited.
Yep. That's the last current question. So what else can we talk about? Ask more questions. Ask more questions.
Ask more questions. Yeah.
So we're not traveling right now.
And I might be paranoid or pessimistic, but I don't think that almost anybody will be traveling this year anywhere.
That might be a little too far, but I don't expect any major travel. I don't expect travel to start going back to normal until probably June 1st at the absolute earliest, and that's going to be a stretch.
I mean, I'm not saying that it will be forbidden, but most of the people, yes. So you might be flying in US from Washington to New York or something like that, but people are going to think twice before they go from US to Europe, for example.
Oh yeah, intercontinental flights are going to be very different.
Or even international flights. So within a country, of course, that will be restored to normal not long from now, simply because there is absolute necessity, right? Kind of like you live somewhere else, you work somewhere else, kind of it must open. But I mean, I live in Spain. I mean, I'm not going to see a single tourist this year. No. Show me a person who is coming to vacations now.
Yeah, no. Hey, we got another question in. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Whatever it is. I heard about this concept of monorepo. Can you talk about the pros and cons? Oh, man, I hate them. I absolutely hate
Actually,
monorepo.
You're being nice by saying you hate it.
Yeah,
it's much stronger than hate.
Yeah, but the problem is that I promised you, Darin, that I will not use swear words, and then my vocabulary is halved, kind of like. That means if I don't swear, I cannot use half of my vocabulary, and that's very, very difficult. Okay. But so now there are good and bad things. Now, if you have a huge application split into different modules that need to be built and deployed together, or in other words, if you have distributed monolith, monorepo makes a lot of sense to me. So I think it's a good thing for huge distributed monoliths or huge applications with many modules and all those things. It makes a lot of sense. What doesn't make sense to me is when people say, we have 50 microservices in a monorepo. That makes no sense to me at all. In my head, I start interpreting it in different ways. First of all, those are not microservices. They're not independently deployable services. That's the first guess that I'm trying that I make, and I might be wrong, right? Or, and this is the one I like. You heard that Google is doing it. Well, you're not building your own tooling around it, and there is no tooling that well manages monorepo. I'm not saying that there are no tools at all, but it's very hard to find, right?
Yep.
How many tools Darin, that manage monorepo? Kind of. And even when they do it, some kind of ad hoc mambo jumbo type of managing. And you kind of like, I noticed that most of the time when I hear a question related to monorepo, it's somehow related to, I have so much trouble. How can we ease up pain? And just move to multiple repositories unless it is one huge app.
Yeah, if it's a single application, a monorepo makes sense. Where it doesn't make sense, and this is the Google model, and I've run into this a lot, is people will just put all of their applications, and this is really big back with Subversion. I don't want to have multiple subversion stuff, so I'm put the whole company into subversion. And it's bad. It's not manageable. I don't see it as much with Git anymore, but I do still see it.
I actually, it's very hard to come to conclusions based on, conversations with individual people, because then you kind of, I spoke with 50 people and then suddenly I know what's the state of the world. But I have impression as if I'm getting increased number of questions about monorepos over time, not decreased, as if more and more people are adopting it. And I don't understand why. Based on the cases that were a bit further away than conversation, but kind of like going through details and stuff like that, every single time, and this is my experience, this does not apply to everybody. Every single time I discovered, no, you are not having many applications in a monorepo. You're having one application, but you like to pretend as if those are separate applications, but they're so interdependent that they're actually one.
Right, and that's the key part. If you have to deploy things as one, like I can't deploy them separately, that's a mono of some sort. It's a monolith. It could be a monorepo. But if you can deploy things completely separately and they don't have dependencies on each other, please don't put them in the same Git repo.
Yeah,
it's just,
and they even linguistically, monorepo, mono-app, multi-app, multi-repo. Yeah. It makes semantical sense even, it's not only technical.
Yeah, the semantics of it make a lot more sense. Hey, we got a couple of questions. Let's see, do we drop
Oh, this is unexpectedly going well, meaning that we have questions. Is JX import a good starting point for moving an on-prem web app to Cloud Cube with proper CD, or are there intermediate steps that should be taken first? I think it's a good starting point.
Good question.
I don't think. No, I do think it's a very, very good starting point, because I think that we still didn't figure out how to really call JenkinsX, what it does, because it does a lot of things, but a simplified version is that it makes many of the things that you need in Kubernetes extremely simple, or simpler, let's say. And that means that you need to make a lot of choices. How you're going to build, how you're going to package, how you're going to deploy, which tools you're going to use for each of those tasks. And just JX import gives you all that kind of like, okay, here is scaffold, here is Dockerfile, but we are not using Docker. Here's a pipeline, here's Helm chart, and so on and so forth. Now, it gives you extremely good starting point. Now, how far you are from that starting point until it does everything you need, that's a different question, right? Because it really depends on your application. If you're following some sort of standards that we accepted, then you will get almost close to the finish line. Like standards, your application responds to health checks on this address. It uses internal port this, not some random 7534, things like that. So closer you are to standards for your application, closer you will be to finish line, but just running JX import.
Okay. Hey, here's another one.
What are your thoughts about the different platforms for FAS inside of Kubernetes? For the pros and cons of running it inside Kubernetes, and between that are the ones you prefer? So I don't like calling it FAS, to be honest, because it would be rather like serverless, or maybe container as a service or something like that, because in most cases, we are not limiting inside of Kubernetes to a single function, right? So it's not really function, strictly speaking, which does not mean that you cannot put a single function. But let's say fast, doesn't matter. Now this is a point where I've been offending my friends in different companies. I personally, so the real question is not only what is the best, and I have opinion there. It's also what is the most likely to become some sort of standard and most widely adopted, right? We are in Kubernetes world, we're all placing bets, kind of like I bet on this one, on that one, on that one. The only thing that is not a bet anymore is Kubernetes. If anybody wants to take a bet against it, you're going to win it do it for whatever amount of money you want. So we are placing bets, and my bets are going on Knative as the most likely winner. That does not mean that others will disappear and what's or not, but that's my preference. I think that a lot of effort is being put there, is being used by a substantial number of companies, huge contributions, what's or not, right? So we have a backing of the industry, and we have healthy community and decent number of users. So Knative, K like Kubernetes and native like native. Now OpenFast is also great. Alex Ellis is amazing guy. He's driving it, and a few others. So I don't want to say, I don't want to in this space on top of Kubernetes. You should never take anybody's word. Try a couple of solutions. They're all easy to run. But yes, my choice goes for Knative.
Yeah, I think where, and you mentioned it towards the top of what you were saying, is not, people don't treat the applications in Kubernetes as functions. If you could actually write it as a single function, that's sort of how Lambda enforces it on AWS, right? You don't have a big, huge app. It's just that one thing. Same thing with Azure functions. But with Kubernetes, you could hurt yourself and get out of that function mentality fast. It's a different programming model.
So we are talking about certain capabilities that stand behind function as a service, or whatever the name is, serverless, right? To automatically scale up and down, to go down to zero replicas, to be easy to manage, kind of doesn't require infrastructure knowledge and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. And the other thing is then the implementation of those ideas with cloud vendors. That's a function. With Kubernetes, that's whatever can run in a container.
Yeah.
Right? Now, that does not mean that whatever can run in a container is a good candidate for that. That's a different thing. If your app needs 5 minutes to start, then maybe it's not a good idea.
And this is his follow-on. I'm asking this question because he's looking for a Lambda alternative on-prem.
Yeah, so if by on-prem you mean you can run Kubernetes, then I would start with Knative, and then
let's say against OpenFast.
OpenFast, those two, yes. So if you don't want to go through 17 of those, OpenFast and Knative.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if, I can't remember if serverless.com, where they're at this point either. I haven't looked at them in a while.
I think that they're more focused on vendor functions as a service.
Yeah. Let me put up the other question, the next question. I'll let you start on that, and I'll dig around on the service one here real quick.
Are we ready for HTTP2 and gRPC and others in industry? In your opinion, what do we need to get ready? I don't know, because I haven't been really in that area enough to judge. So if I would tell you something, then it would be half a guess, and it's not really my area. And I don't know whether you, Darren, have a better.
I would have to say, are we ready? No. How many people are still running IE8 on their corporate desktops? The answer is no. The greater we, right? Right now we're living in this land of we with the whole coronavirus thing. I think it may be a little too early for that. I'm not saying it's not possible and you shouldn't do it. I think you should. But I think it's a little, what do you need to do to get ready? Fire all the IT departments and actually put people in charge that understand what a real operating system is? I don't know. Did I say that out loud? Normally that's your line.
Yeah, not my thing. I cannot answer, unfortunately. Yeah. You caught me. You caught me with my pants down.
No, thankfully not. But you stumped him
That's
on the
not
question.
swearing. That's not swearing.
That's not swearing, but I don't need to see that. So I'll come back to one of the things here. I pulled up the serverless site, and it appears I'm in the wrong place. It looks like Knative based solutions or Kubernetes based solutions like Knative. I haven't dug into it, but I don't know. Maybe serverless. I mean, so do your homework. Who was that? Andre. Do your homework. Just straight up Knative. Look at serverless.com. See if they've got anything. There's a pro and open source side to it, and then OpenFast. That's probably where I would start. Just sort of
Yes.
That seems reasonable at this point because serverless didn't used to have that type of integration. So let's see here. One's follow up to that was, it feels like Python 3 or IPv6. Oh dear. Yeah, I think that's true. Except Python 3 is now the only one that exists, technically.
But this is not a question to somebody in the audience, because I'm not following Python closely. Did we move away from Python 2 after 10 years, or that's still a thing?
2.7 died end of January. I think that's what it was. So everything's supposed to be Python 3 now. Let's see. I'll check it out here real quick. Or Python 2. But anyway, I don't know. Yeah. No longer current. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Let's see here. Okay, I'll pop this one up here. All right, this one's in the CI/CD space.
Okay, that one I know.
Okay, well, okay, and this one looks like, because we said, okay, there's certain ones that we'll answer. I think this one's pretty reasonable.
Okay, as you know, there are so many open source CI/CD solutions available today. For instance, Jenkins, Drone, Circle CI, etc. Is there any standard criteria to evaluate them and which one to choose? So standard criteria to, yeah.
I think the evaluate we can answer. How should you evaluate a solution? And I think that's true for any way you deal with this, right? What is the evaluation process?
I mean, I guess it's about criteria. So first you want to ask yourself, do you want to self-host it or use it as a service? Because that already distinguishes greatly, let's say, Jenkins and Drone, right?
Yeah.
Do you, how many weird stuff do you have? Do you need a solution that can handle anything anybody can ever imagine, or do you have a solution that is focused on something? Yeah. It's hard to evaluate, right? Really. I mean, in some cases, you might be better off with solutions that exist for 10 years because they're battle tested and they cover so many use cases. On the other hand, you might want to go with cool kids, but their scope is limited. So I think that the question would be, what's your scope, right? And how willing you are to accept the opinions and limitations of a tool, right? Maybe you would like, I don't know, like Circle CI service, but you're not allowed to SSH into your clusters, and then that's it. That's the end of the game, right?
Yeah. And are you done with that one?
Yeah, I mean,
I think it always
I don't have the answer.
There isn't an answer, I don't think.
Exactly.
You have to figure out what your process is for what you have to do. At the end of the day, you've got a source code repository. Hopefully you have a binary repository, and you have a deploy target. Right? Those are the three big pieces. Some people don't even have the binary repository. They have their source code and they have deploy target. What you want to do on top of that, does it even matter?
Ultimately, that question might be less important than it sounds.
Yeah.
Because if you think of those tools as being schedulers of and orchestrators of your automation, yeah, and not really the places where the tools that you use to automate, then the question is almost less relevant, because yeah, is it a tool that will run 7 of your scripts in sequential order, or is it a tool where you're going to write automation?
Yeah. Yeah. Bill brought up, I got 3 that I'm going to do back to back from Bill. Python 2 died end of December, technically. But here's an interesting question from Bill.
Have you two found a topic you cannot come to an agreement on? Darren, you just said that the other day you found it for the first time. You didn't agree with neither me nor Adam.
Nor Adam, yeah.
Or that was just a trick.
No, that's true. I understand your viewpoint. I completely disagree with you in the majority of the people I work with. That what you were stating, and I don't want to give it away because it'll come out on the 15th of April. So you can listen to it then. I completely so if you want to, when you listen to that episode, when you listen to it, you can keep in the back of your mind, he said he doesn't agree with any of this. And it's true. I agree with it in certain situations, but in most of the situations I deal with, I completely disagree. I'll leave that there for the now. What's another thing we probably disagree on? We probably disagree on, I don't know. Because you drink both Coke and Pepsi, I drink both Coke and Pepsi.
Yeah, but I drink alcohol.
Yeah, you drink alcohol, I don't drink alcohol. So
but that's not disagreement.
But it's not disagreement. It's just yeah, we just don't do that.
I don't go to a gym. I don't disagree with people going to the gym.
And I go to the gym. You can't really tell, but I do go to the gym. I don't know that from a technical perspective, I don't know that we disagree. At the end, that we completely disagree. I think we're more in common than most people think we are.
There is a topic that I know that we would disagree, but we never spoke about it.
Now's a good time.
Huh?
Go ahead.
You're how do you call it? You're conservative. I'm liberal.
Yeah. Okay. And
I'm a communist.
Okay.
I mean, what you call communist? We don't call it like that.
Okay. And where do we disagree? It doesn't, just because the alignment's different doesn't mean that we can't agree on the right things. Like, can we both agree right now that we both should be staying at home?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Can we both agree that we love our families?
Yeah.
Respectively. We agree. We probably, even when people are completely diametrically opposed, there's probably enough commonality there to where you can say, you know what? There's probably some big rocks that we're in disagreement on, but it's not usually about the big things.
But I don't believe that I disagree with anybody for a longer period of time. I mean, to me, agreeing, disagreeing is about having an argument that can last for 5 minutes or 3 days.
Yeah.
And at the end, kind of like, if you're a normal human being, you're either going to say, yeah, you're right, or you're wrong, because kind of like, as long as we are all kind of taking arguments into account and capable of changing our minds, I don't see how can people disagree as long as we're talking about a subject that can be quantified.
Yes.
Right now, there's a different thing about agreeing on disagreeing on philosophical meaning of life type of things, that there are no arguments valid. I guess I don't know about that, but I actually that's and I've been having, especially this week, and that's why I said this week was very difficult for me, because it was very hard, because I was exactly in that situation. It's kind of like, okay, people, can we just talk with arguments and stop doing this I disagree type of madness?
This is red.
As far as I know, it is.
It's okay.
Yeah.
All right. We're in agreement. That's close enough, right? That's what we actually have another question. We'll come back to this. Oh, got actually a couple questions. Y'all are doing good. But Bill, it's actually a good question. There's probably some stuff that we really probably disagree on, but at the end of the day, we're more concerned about trying to find where we agree. We all seem to agree. Oh dear. Do we agree on Terraform too?
I think it's a kind of,
I love Hashi.
it's not really
Thumbs up on Hashi.
Yeah, so Terraform is my favorite. So if somebody asks me which tool you would use to manage your infrastructure, I don't think more than a millisecond and say Terraform. There is absolutely no doubt that that's my favorite tool. But it's so if the question is your favorite tool Terraform just as mine, then the answer is very easy, yes. Yeah. Now, comparing that, we agree Kubernetes and Terraform is a bit hard because Kubernetes is a platform on which we depend heavily, and we need to make that right choice because this is the type of decisions that will, if it's wrong, haunt us for next years to come. Yeah. Right? While Terraform to me is more like a tool. It would be not do we agree on, just as we agree on Kubernetes, do we agree on Terraform? It would be Terraform, do we agree on Terraform just as we agree on Helm, right? Those are the tools, but they're relatively easy to replace. So the level of dependency is different. But yes, my favorite tool is Terraform, and I have no doubt that there is no better choice right now, today. Are you disagreeing now?
I'm not going to disagree.
I know what you're going to say, but I'm going to let you say it.
Okay, tell me what I was going to say.
Pulumi?
Yep. I'm going to pull it up.
Yeah, but you know,
but it's based on Terraform, though. So it's still at its heart is Terraform.
It is, but you know, and that's a difficult type of decisions that I'm struggling with all the time. Yeah. Is I need to, especially now since 2 days ago, I need to kind of like find the balance. On one hand, one thing is to have the coolest tool in the market. And let's say for the sake of argument, I'm not saying that's true, but let's say for the argument that Pulumi technically is better than Terraform, right? Yeah. But it's also about how big of a support it has, how many people know it, how likely it is to exist and stuff like that, right? Yeah. To me, that's a similar discussion like Helm versus something else, whatever that something else is. Yeah, it might be better, but do I kind of like, I have the whole world adopting it. I'm not sure whether I want to switch right now. I'm not saying that you should. So if everybody thinks like what I just said, then we would never have any new tool ever again. Yeah. So the real question is whether it is substantially better. That's my question. If it's slightly better, it might not be worth it. If it's substantially better, then yes, let's jump.
Yeah. And since it's based on Terraform, or appears to be based on Terraform, it's just an it's not an abstraction layer. I don't work for Pulumi. I don't, I've just used it as a fun thing to play with. But here, I'll go ahead and answer this. I'll pop this. Where'd it go? Pulumi's for programmers, not DevOps. Found Pulumi complicated to Terraform. See, I found the exact opposite of that. But it also is because I come from a development background. For people that have only done ops and have never done development, that may be true. I'm okay with either one. It's just Terraform. I had to deal with a bunch of Terraform that was 11 that didn't fast forward into 12, which was a not fun time. So I don't disagree with you, but it's like, that's what it is. We actually have another question here, and then we'll probably start getting close to the end. What do you have to say to a guy? Oh dear.
Can I please?
Where's my violin? Yes, please take it.
If there is any chance for you to quit and get a job somewhere else, please do it. So actually, it's not a bad idea. So I don't actually think. So if I would ignore your last two words in your question, it's not necessarily a bad idea to go from AWS to on-prem. If you say, now I know how it works. Now I know what it means to have a good service. I have some business reasons or some other reasons to go on-prem, but I'm capable. Yeah, but I'm capable to give my people the same level of service. not whole Amazon, but kind of like what we need, because nobody uses more than 1% of Amazon, right?
Yeah.
But then you say no internet connectivity, come on. What's next? They're not going to give you a lighter when you need to light a fire. You're going to do it with stones and stuff, no?
I mean, how would you even install the stuff? Are you bringing it in on tape? Is it on DVD?
No.
I mean, what does it look like?
To me, that's a classic example of security department not being able to secure without preventing people to do the right stuff. People are supposed to be on internet, and you make sure that that is secure. Not kind of like, I'm going to make sure that it's secure by not allowing. What's next? Kind of like, it's not secure to actually even allow people to use our application because they can do DDoS the attack, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you want a completely secure system or completely secure infrastructure, don't put any computers in the racks. Don't hook anything up to the network. Don't add any power to anything. Just have an empty data center. That's the most secure.
Exactly.
There's going to be risk. But I agree.
So what I would be asking myself if I'm in your position, and I don't know your background, so I might be terribly wrong, kind of like, is staying there going to help me improve my skills so that my value on the market is going up, not down? Kind of, to me, that's a professional risk. I don't want to be in a company that would prevent me from having a job that I believe I should have in the future.
Yeah. I think the key part, if you're having to come out of the cloud and go on-prem, one of the things that Victor said, and I was sort of making a hand gesture towards it, is at some point it may become cheaper to run it on-prem. It may come down straight to cost. You know that you don't need unlimited scalability. You've been running and you finally realize, oh, I can go get a bunch of boxes. I can OpenStack it, ESX it, whatever you want to do it if you want to slice them up. And I know what my sizing is going to be because my company is not going to get any bigger because we're not able to sell anything else. That would be another red flag that, oh, we're not going to actually be growing our company.
Exactly. I don't need scaling.
Yeah. Or the other thing is,
you want to be in a company that doesn't need scaling?
Well, maybe they found that this particular app can come back on house, but back in house. But now they still work in the cloud initially to figure out what the correct sizings are, and then they bring them in as things go in. I'm not saying it's a great model, but I'm also not opposed to that.
I would have more respect for if the question contained, and we're going to hybrid, meaning that we're going to have on-prem for whatever we need, and we're going to use cloud for excess capacity. Yeah. That would make sense.
Yeah. So Juan had, if it's not connected, it can't be hacked.
Exactly.
Okay.
And you know what? If a new release is never deployed to production, it cannot cause problems either.
Yeah. And since we're here live anyway, well, suppose you have a client like the USA Space Department. I'll quickly click off of that. And Juan said, oh dear. Here's a good one. Running container as root. How can that harm Kubernetes security?
That can harm Kubernetes security. I mean, it really depends. If nobody has access to that container, and you're not afraid that your own engineers and infrastructure people are going to do you harm, then not that much really. And we are getting much better. I mean, the whole container story is getting much better. It's not that bad as it was before. Yeah. Now, of course, it is better if it's not root than if it's root. So I'm not saying that, but there must be some balance, right? And I don't think the danger is that high. Somebody needs to get into your system to begin with. And I would be more concerned about your applications and what's happening outside and all those things than whether container is a root.
It doesn't bug me a whole lot. I mean, preferably, no, it doesn't run as root. But if it is, it should be fine. Could I write a a malicious container that runs as root to go do things. Well, yeah, but if your Kubernetes infrastructure isn't set up right and I can do that, then there's a bigger problem with your infrastructure.
But that's about being, whether you want to do security easy way or hard way, right? Hard way is you make sure that what is running in that container is not malicious, not whether it is root or not. That's your job, dear whomever you are. None of the people present. So you do security scanning. You make sure that developers understand the implications of security and blah 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 blah. All that stuff. Be proactive, because if you don't run it as root, yes, but there is so much stuff is right now ready for you to use that runs as root that you're going to suffer greatly.
Yeah. Okay. Do we let that be the last question for today? We've been going almost an hour.
Sounds good to me.
Anybody else have any questions? I'll pause here because it takes about 30 seconds for this to go live. So I'll let this tick off for a couple of minutes. So what's your big plans for the weekend?
Work.
Yeah. See, I got a new camera and I've got to finish setting up the studio this weekend. So I'm still sort of working in the office. So
looks good. Your background is going in and out of focus. But,
yeah, that's what it's supposed to be doing. So it's like, yeah.
Background. Oh, really? Okay.
Huh? What do you mean? Well, it's it's a prime lens. So it does, all it's doing is just going in and out of focus. That's all it is.
Cool.
I'll pause here for just a little bit longer in case there's any other questions. I'll have another sip of my soda. Well, not soda, energy drink. So yeah, the chaos. We're going to do no live stream next week, right?
Yeah, let's do next week live stream, maybe some demo.
You want to do a demo? You think you'll have something to demo?
Yeah, let's do a demo and questions. Any questions about chaos engineering? I'm just brainstorming now, right now. I'm not prepared, but I can be.
Okay. Neil has, we've got two questions. So we're going to take Neil's question and Juan's question, and that'll be it. So we'll go over just a little bit, but not much. Okay, here's Neil's question.
So you need cross-functional teams, and you need teams of operations and QA and developers both. Maybe actually the list I think is not right. I wouldn't say teams of operations, QA and developers. See, you need two types of teams. You need a team that takes ownership of an application or more than one application, right? And owning an application means that you need to develop, you need to test, you need to deploy, you need to do stuff, right? This is my application. I own it from beginning to the end. I really like that concept. I have trouble convincing people to use it, but to me, that's the ideal concept. Now, that does not mean that, let's call that vertical teams, right? Kind of like they do whole vertical everything. Yep. Now, you still need those horizontal people, teams. You need, because that cross-functional team will not know everything there is to know about operations. Never. Yep. It's not going to happen. And many other things. So you need those horizontal teams that are very specialized and know something. But the difference is that those teams are creating services. So operations can help you deploy your applications easier, right? Help you, not demand. You still own the application, you own how it's going to be deployed, but they have the knowledge that can help you, and so on and so forth. So we cannot exclude the option that there are people who are highly specialized and know something very well. I mean, even within cross-functional teams, it's not that everybody does everything, just let me clarify. Right. But still, they're focused on application, while there are people who, let's put it this way, there are people specialized that are focused on the system as a whole.
Yep. I think that's good on any applications that are under active true development that haven't started moving towards maintenance mode. Once it goes maintenance mode, you don't need that vertical anymore.
Yeah.
It's just, you got 2 or 3 people, you pull them in and out sort of as a SWAT team, but that's about it.
Yeah, but that can also fall into the category. So this team owns 3 applications. One of them is really under active development, but they can jump in. They still own. I still like the idea. You still own it, even though it's not active.
Absolutely.
But you have other things that you own as well.
Yeah. And final question for today.
What project tool are you excited for in the near future? I'm not seeing much, and that might be because I'm not looking. I'm much more now focused on and expecting some sort of stabilization of the tools that I've been using, because most of what I do is very focused on Kubernetes. And now we're in a phase that, we know that service mesh is a thing. We know that this is a thing and that is a thing. I honestly don't want more tools. Now I want to figure out which of the tools in each of the areas is going to kind of be the thing. Kind of like Istio, Linkerd, or something else, right? And things like that. I'm kind of getting, this year I would like to take a break from new tools personally, and
you know it's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen, yes, but
you would like to. You would like to.
It's not. Yes, that's. Well,
I don't really have anything major that I'm looking forward to from that perspective.
So in my case, the thing is that the way how I work is that I can readily answer that question in advance, because I tend to be focused. So I have office job, that's whatever it is. And then I tend to be focused on one thing and one thing only. I mean, Darin knows, kind of like when I'm focused on something, I tend to ignore the rest of the world. And if you ask me that 2 weeks from now, when I finish with Chaos thingy, then I'm going to try to spend a week or two trying to figure out
the next
what
thing
will be my next interest. Yes.
Yeah. All right. That's probably a good place to stop. And we've been going for an hour. Holy cow. I got to get back to work. You get to have your final drink here. All right.
Yeah.
So, cheers.
Cheers.
Have a good evening. For everybody hanging out, man, thanks for hanging out for everybody that stayed the whole time. I'm so sorry that
this
you
was
stayed
awesome.
with us the whole time. Yeah. And we'll send out some more. If you're not part of the this. Oh yeah, wait, I got some stuff. Wait, don't anybody leave yet. Actually, if you look down in the description of the episode, there's a bunch of links down there. If you're not part of the Slack workspace, go ahead and go sign up for an account. We'll send messages there. You can watch us on Twitter and LinkedIn as well. That's pretty much it, I think. Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And let me do the cool TV post roll thing. So everybody have a good weekend. Stay safe. Not out there, but in there. Don't go outside unless you're just going out for a walk. Get back inside as quickly as possible.
I know that everybody has a different opinion. Don't go out. This is not
that
trivial.
time. No.
Yes.
Stay. The conservative and the liberal both agree on this. So
yes.
let's just keep that in mind. All right. When we agree, it's probably a good thing. All right. Thanks everybody for hanging out. Have a great weekend.